So I'm going to use practice it. Yo! What's going on?
Yo! I remember the first time I met you, you were wondering if you were on the right show.
That's right.
Yo, you're like, what show am I on today?
Right.
All right, here we go. Yo, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to undergroundwellness.com. Have a very, very special guest in studio, Dr. Tom O'Brien. Dr. Tom, welcome to the show.
Sean, nice to see you.
Thanks so much for being here. We're talking about gluten. Dr. Tom knows more about gluten than anybody I know. He spends his time deep in the research. We're going to share that with you. Actually, we're sharing the top 5 things you didn't know about gluten. Dr. Tom, what's the first thing our audience doesn't know about gluten?
Well, as you did the introduction, this one hit me. I've got to do this one first, and that is a paper just came out that says, should we be nervous about gluten sensitivity? And what it talked about is that people that have headaches as one of their concerns, and seems to be coming from gluten, if they see that association, or even if they don't, 36% of those people have white matter lesions in the brain. That's dead brain tissue. And of that group, if the person is still having gluten once in a while, considered once a month is once in a while, every one of them have lesions in the brain. Now, lesions in the brain mean dead tissue. Dead tissue means the connections can't work quite the same, and it's a spiraling down concept.
And these people, they're dealing with headaches and they're popping, different drugs and whatnot, but really all they need to do is take the gluten out of their diet?
That's right. For some of people that have recurrent headaches, not all of them, but for some of them, the culprit is gluten. And we see it regularly when people stop the exposure to the food they're sensitive to, the headaches go away.
When they remove the gluten from the diet, does the brain tissue come back to life, or is that tissue just gone?
This study didn't address that at all. It just identified the frequency, and it said, should we be nervous about gluten? It's a really cute title in a medical journal. Should we be nervous about it? They didn't address it, but other studies show, and I've got 5 different studies in my all-day presentation reversing the lesions in the brain on a gluten-free diet. They do pre and post MRIs. So that's number 1, is that if you've got brain damage, sometimes it can be reversed on a gluten-free diet.
Number 2.
Number 2, skin. And the age groups that are really interested in finding out and are more receptive to what I eat may be messing with me seems to be late teenagers, 20-somethings, 30-somethings going into their 40s. They're receptive. And what they don't know, many of them, it's skin. The skin may be the only manifestation of this sensitivity. So it can manifest as acne, it can be cold sores, it can be dry skin, dry lips, much worse, it can be psoriasis, dermatitis. There's lots of technical things, but any skin condition that is not getting better with the treatments that should be making it better, just think about, I wonder if this is gluten that's causing it.
That's amazing, because I remember back in high school, a lot of my friends were dealing with skin issues, but at the same time they're having pizza for lunch every single day.
Boy, that's exactly right.
And they're putting all type of creams and stuff all over their body and wipes and all that stuff. It could have been just a matter of the pizza and the food that they were consuming.
I saw my yoga teacher last night at class, and she's 7 months pregnant now, and she's still doing yoga, teaching yoga. It's really cute to see this roly-poly. But a few months ago, she had lots of acne on her skin that just popped up during the pregnancy, and it's a hormone change during the. And what I suggested, you might just want to consider stop gluten for a while. And she did, and the result, skin cleared up.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Number 3, energy. One of the most common symptom of allergies of any type is fatigue. It's the number 1 symptom. And with gluten sensitivity, it frequently is people are just downed, they're dialed down in their vitality level. And we often hear when you go on a gluten-free diet, within a couple of weeks, you've got juice like you haven't had in years.
Brings your energy back. So you don't need a 5-hour energy, you don't need coffee. Your energy can come back by removing gluten from the diet.
That's exactly right.
Very cool. It's such an easy change. Do you find that people have a hard time getting off gluten even though you tell them this information?
Yeah, I do. And it's because it's maybe the most prevalent food for most people that they've been eating daily. You think you have toast for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, pasta for dinner, toast for breakfast the next day, sandwich for lunch, croutons on the salad at dinner, maybe a cookie or a piece of pie. So we're getting gluten just in the obvious ways multiple times a day, every day. Most of us are. And so it's difficult to go away from the foods that we've grown up with. You just don't know what to do. That's why you have to find somebody that can guide you with that. That's part of our CGP program, the Certified Gluten Practitioners, are people who are trained and they understand how do you implement this and how do you guide people into transitioning over.
And our audience can learn more about the CGPs at thedoctor.com.
TheDR.com, right.
TheDR.com. We've talked about headaches, talked about skin, we talked about energy. What's number 4?
Well, it kind of goes along with brain function, which the white matter lesions and headaches would be, but that's suicide. Suicide rates are increased in people that have celiac disease, in children. There's a 40% increase in the likelihood of suicide in a celiac child compared to a non-celiac child. 40%. Now, that's bad, but what's even worse is there's different degrees of identifying celiac. It's obvious, it's not so obvious, or it's really hard to identify. You have to know what you're doing. And for that third stage, where it's really hard to identify, you need to know what you're doing, which is they've got intestinal inflammation, but the blood tests are normal, and the endoscopy is normal, but they've got the inflammation. For that group, it's 96% increased risk of suicide for children. And it's because no one's teaching them how to implement a gluten-free lifestyle. So they feel social outcasts. It's called social phobia. And they just don't know. They're embarrassed to be with their friends. They don't go to the pizza parlor. They don't go to school. They don't want to eat with people in the cafeteria. And so they don't go to school. They don't go out. And they develop a social phobia, a depression. And the result is, unfortunately, there's too high a risk of suicide.
Gosh, it's too bad. You think there's any connection to malabsorption of like amino acids that make the neurotransmitters in the brain at all?
That's a really good question, and the obvious answer is yes. To any physician who studies the physiology of this, we understand if you don't absorb the nutrients, the amino acids that build your nerve hormones called neurotransmitters, if you don't get the raw material, you're not going to have balanced neurotransmitters.
Right. Number 5.
Number 5, mortality. Increased mortality. With or without a gluten-free diet. First, without. They did a 32-year study following people, and what they found was that those that were vigilant about gluten-free diet, their mortality was half of those that just celiacs in general. Because the celiacs in general, you're 2 times more likely to die early in life of something. It's called the standard mortality ratio. You're 2 times more likely in general for all celiacs of heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, something, but earlier in life if you're a celiac. Those that were following and strict about a gluten-free diet, it was half as often instead of twice as often. Because they were taking care of themselves, they were watching what they're eating. But those that were pretty much gluten-free, defined as eating gluten once a month exposure, they were 6 times more likely to die early in life.
Really?
Compared to the general population, 6 times.
And when you say gluten exposure, how much are you talking about?
Oh man, 1/8 of a thumbnail is all it takes.
1/8 of a thumbnail, that's it.
That's it. So if you order a gluten-free meal and they bring you your salad with croutons on it and you pick the croutons off, you're going to get the exposure. Because there's little crumbs in the greens. You got to get a new salad. You can't have them, and they can't pick off the croutons. You got to get a new salad.
There's so many hidden sources of gluten.
Oh,
out there
soy
as
sauce?
well.
You
It's
bet.
ridiculous.
There are many.
Wow. We went out to breakfast the other day, and we'll give you guys a bonus. You're talking about children on a gluten-free diet and their mortality risk. You want to share that?
Yeah. That's what gives me so much juice to come here today and to do whatever I can to carry the message out there. Children diagnosed with celiac disease have a 3.2-fold, that's over 3 times, more likely to die early in life with or without a gluten-free diet. With or without. So those kids that are on a gluten-free diet, they still have the increased mortality and die early in life. And it's because no one treats the damage that's already accrued.
Yeah, when you told me that, I was like, did he screw up that stat? Yeah, because even on the gluten-free diet, they have a 300% increased chance, and that's just the inflammation, how they're not getting to the root cause.
That's exactly right. You know, and the analogy on that is such a good analogy. It takes 976,000 mousetraps to fill up a football field laid side by side. You know, you think of a big football field, put these little mousetraps on there. You cock the mousetrap and put a ping pong ball on each mousetrap. So now you have 976,000 mousetraps with ping pong balls on them. Walk along the sideline and throw one mousetrap out there onto the football field. It hits one mousetrap. Or did I say mouse? Throw one ping pong ball out there. It hits one mousetrap. Pop. Now there's two ping pong balls in the other. The one you threw out there and the ones on the mousetrap that just pop. They hit two mousetraps. Pop, pop. Now there's 4 in the air. Pop, pop, pop. 16. And you have what's called a cascade reaction, and that's exactly what oxidative stress is and what happens in our bodies. And the initial irritant, that ping pong ball you threw out there, it's gone. That irritant's gone, but it's still got a life of its own. That's what happens with celiac disease and gluten sensitivity when you've been eating it for years. It develops a life of its own.
Yeah, that's why we need to get to the root cause. I cannot say it enough, get to the root.
That's right.
You mentioned CGPs earlier, talked about there's information at thedoctor.com. What exactly is a CGP?
Certified Gluten Practitioner, these are folks who have been through my all-day training and they've passed the test. I've put a test together. It's a pretty substantial test. You can't just whiz through it. Many docs say, I can take your test. All right, sure, go ahead and try. And then they come back and they do the CGP program because I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And when they pass the test, we list them on our website, thedr.com, with a caveat. I don't know how these people practice. I can't guarantee anything except that they've gone through the training. They really should know how to identify this and how to treat it.
Gotcha. And this is one of my favorite DVDs of all time, Unlocking the Mystery of Wheat and Gluten Intolerance. Go over to thedr.com, pick this thing up. And Dr. Tom, thanks so much for the information.
Thank you, Sean.
Love your passion.
Thank
This
you,
guy's
man.
the man. Told you he knows his stuff. We're out of here. See you next time. Peace. Beautiful.
Wow.
Boom. You're the man.
Wow.
You are the man.
Well, we'll see how it comes out.
Oh, they're going to love that. They're going to absolutely love that.